Hi, I'm Jen from KetoCookingWins.com, and today I'm going to show you how to make Steakhouse Creamed Spinach. It's easy, everybody loves it, it can double as a dip, and it goes perfectly with just about anything off the grill. So hang in and follow along, and I'll show you how you can make this restaurant quality dish at home. So, first thing we're going to do is we're going to take a pound of spinach. I've got baby spinach here. It's fresh, it's beautiful, it's lovely. I've given it a rinse in my colander. You always want to rinse your greens first before you use them because, well, you never know what's lurking in there. I found bugs before. It's not very pleasant. I don't tell the kids that I pulled them out, but it happens. You can also find little bits of weed in there sometimes. Things that just don't belong that you don't want to be eating. You can also fish out any little funky bits that you don't want to be eating. So giving it a good once over under some running water also helps clean it a little bit. And I don't know if you've ever noticed with spinach, but sometimes you eat it and it gives you a sort of a funny taste in your mouth, like a tannin taste. When you coat it in water first, there's some sort of chemical reaction that happens. It reduces some of that tannin flavor, that bitterness that you can get when you're eating spinach. So as you can see, 1 pound of fresh spinach is a lot of spinach. There's a lot of bulk here. So I have to cook it in batches because my pan is just not big enough. So I'm going to start my tasty one top here. I actually bought it for my husband, but I end up doing all the cooking on it. Go figure. And I'm going to start this heating up and we're going to let it cook down. Because as this heats up in the bottom, the spinach is going to wilt on the bottom and you want to be moving it around a little bit to help it cook. But it's going to take a few minutes to warm up. While it's doing that, let me tell you about this dish. Spinach is crazy, crazy high in nutrition. There's a lot of fiber in it, a lot of good stuff. And it's a perfect dish for keto dieters because there are only, in this recipe, only about 3 net carbs per serving. So that's not very much for a lot of flavor and some serious goodness. So we're going to start cooking this down. I'm going to try not to throw spinach all over the counter. Although sometimes I feel like the Swedish chef from the Muppets, you know, the guy that throws food like this. I usually end up wearing half of it too. Oh, there goes one. Get back in there. I can see now it's starting to get hot. Mr. Tasty is starting to work. My spinach is going to start to shrink down. I'm going to come back in just a minute when it's time to add the rest of the spinach. So you can see here how the spinach is really starting to wilt down. Don't worry about if you get a lot of water in the pan. I'm going to show you how to get rid of that. So for now, just let this spinach cook on down. So we're back now, and as you can see, my spinach, my first batch of spinach is almost wilted all the way down. So now I'm going to add in the rest of my spinach with my super clean hands because hands are just sometimes better than tongs. So all of it in there. There we go. Whoop, and everywhere. My pan is full again, and I'm throwing spinach around again. But as you will see, this is going to cook down pretty darn quickly too. As this cooks down, I'm going to tell you about the rest of what's going to go in this recipe. It's pretty simple. A lot of the flavor is going to come from cheese. Look, there I go. See? It's kind of hard not to with the pan this full. Okay, spinach, you cook a little bit. So into this recipe, I'm going to add about 1.5 cups of cheese in total. On the recipe, on the blog, I suggest using straight Parmesan to get that really authentic steakhouse flavor, but my kids like the gooiness of it, so I'm adding some mozzarella, and then I'm supplementing with the rest as Parmesan on top because the Parmesan gets all brown and bubbly, and it gets a crusty top on top that's just fabulous. I'm going to also add a little bit of garlic powder and a little bit of dried chopped onion. This stuff, I don't know if you're used to using it. They're dehydrated onion flakes. Onions have a few more carbs in them than some other vegetables, but if you use the dehydrated onion flakes, you get all that onion flavor without a lot of the carbs. Kind of like a condensed onion flavor. I also find that The flakes have a little bit better texture and flavor than dried onion powder. I try and stay away from powders as much as I can. This recipe, it works well with a bit of dried garlic powder, just because it tends to blend in better. Alright, spinach, you're going to cook down, cooking, cooking, cooking. We're also going to add, to make this creamy, cream, heavy whippy cream. I bet you're surprised to hear that. When they make this in restaurant kitchens, they often add a thickener or an emulsifier. Anytime you hear the word thickener, you should go ding ding, those are carbs. So we're going to make this without added carbs from added starches. It's going to thicken up from the amount of cheese that's in it. We're also not going to drown it in cream so that it's not really soupy. So my spinach is almost cooked down here. I'm just going to let it cook for another minute or two, and then I'm going to show you how to get the water out of it, because with this much water in it, there's probably about a cup of water in the bottom of my pan. You don't want to be adding your cheese and your cream to that, or you're going to end up with spinach soup. Now my spinach is looking pretty good. You don't really want to let it just keep cooking. Sure, eventually the moisture in it would boil off, but you'd end up with overcooked spinach then. You want to leave some integrity in it so it's not just mush or baby food. Alright, tasty. You can turn off. So what I'm going to do now is show you my neat little trick for getting all the water out of hot spinach. So I'm going to dump this into my strainer, just like that. Get rid of this pan. You can already see that a lot of the water is coming out of the bottom. That's what we want. We want to get rid of all that. So now you could just let this cool. You could let it cool, and then you could squeeze it with your bare hands once it was really cool, but this is steaming hot. I don't have the patience to wait for it. I'm going to take a clean, empty bowl and a lemon squeezer. And this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to load some hot spinach into that lemon squeezer, and then I'm going to make some room here, and I'm going to squeeze it through the water coming out of it. That's all what we don't want. Get rid of all that liquid. And then pop the squeezed spinach into the bowl. I'm just going to keep going. It's going to take, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 batches. And if you've never cooked spinach before, wait till you see how much spinach is left when we're done. You are going to be, oh, it's squirting everywhere. You are going to be surprised, because spinach is notorious for having a really high water content, and when you cook it out like this, all the water comes out and you're left with hardly any spinach at all. So you saw from my 2 panfuls of spinach, a whole pound of baby spinach, I'm going to be left with hardly enough to fill this bowl. Alright. Now when you use this guy, you don't want to squeeze the life out of your spinach. You just want to squeeze it enough to get most of the water out of it. Most of the water will do the trick. You can see how much is filling up in the bottom. That's all what we're trying to get rid of. You don't have to get every last drop of water out of it. Some water left behind will be just fine. Alright, I think I've got about 1 more here. There we go. Squeeze it all out. It's trying to spray everywhere. I'm making a mess again. Okay. There we go. Spinach juice everywhere. That, my friends, is what we're left with. We have about roughly 2 cups of cooked spinach left. So to this, I'm going to add about half a tablespoon of those onion flakes. Don't worry about it. They're dehydrated onion flakes, but there's enough liquid in that spinach that it'll rehydrate those onion flakes in no time. Plus, we're going to add some cream to it. I'm going to add about half a teaspoon of onion powder, just like that. And then we're going to need to put this back onto some heat. So come on back, Tasty Top, in my pan. And some heat. There we go. Back into the pan. It's just going to be easier to mix this way. Also, when you heat it through on the stove top with the cream in it, you're going to save how much time it ends up needing in the oven to cook. So it seems like a lot of cream. Don't sweat it. There's a fair bit of spinach in there. It'll all get mixed in. And we're going to bring this to a boil, which will help reduce some of that cream down and thicken it up. We're going to add the cheese near the end of the cooking time. What you don't want to do is boil cheese. I don't know if you've ever made like a cheese sauce or something like that, and you've added your cheese and you've boiled it, and then sometimes when you're done the sauce seems really grainy. That's because your cheese has been boiled too hard and it has broken apart, and it has lost its cheesiness. Really, it's just been boiled so hard that it's just gotten grainy and nasty. So we're not going to add our cheese until the very end. We're just going to warm it through, and then we'll pop it in the oven for just a couple of minutes at the end of the cooking time to brown up that cheese and get it all nice and hot and gooey. You can always give it a taste before you pop it in the oven and see if there's a good amount of salt in it for you. Alright, I was seeing a couple bubbles. Yep, we're starting to get some bubbles. This is good. I'm just going to let it bubble for a couple minutes. So I had about 2 cups of spinach with the cream and the cheese and everything in it. It's going to be closer to 3 cups in total. So you're looking at about half a cup per person would be a very hearty serving, and that's going to be about 3 grams, net grams of carb per serving. Alright, I wish you could smell this. It smells delicious. I'm going to wait until it's boiling all around the edges so that I know it's hot all the way through. And I'm going to let it simmer just for a couple of minutes to boil off some of that excess water, because we don't want super runny spinach. As I said, you could easily go from this to a spinach artichoke dip. Throw in some chopped artichokes, a bit more cheese, put it in the oven to get all hot and bubbly, and voila, you've got spinach artichoke dip. It's really not much harder than that. You can also change up the kind of cheeses that you use. Blue cheese would be great, cheddar would be good, Monterey Jack or pepper jack. Pepper jack would give it a little bit of a kick. That would be kind of nice too. So feel free to use whatever you've got in your fridge. Alright, so I've got a good boil going on here now. There's still some cream in the bottom. We don't want to boil it all off because we want there to be some cream for that cheese to mix into and make a delicious sauce. So I'm going to turn this off the heat because I don't want to boil my cheese. We're going to add all the cheese in there. Mix it around, help it get melting a little bit. There we go. And then I'm going to pop this into individual size containers, nice little casserole pans. They make a pretty presentation on a plate. I'm going to put about half a cup or so, maybe a little bit more, into each serving dish, and I'm going to heat them in the oven for about 5 to 10 minutes at 375. If you're using a bigger dish, you may need to let it go a little bit longer. Keep in mind, it is fully cooked, so you don't need to cook it. All you want to do is get it nice and hot and bubbly and have it get brown on top from the cheese. So here we go. I'm going to load some into my container. Oh, you see that cheese? Yum, yum, yum. Oh, that's gonna be so good. I guess I've got about a cup in here. Whoop, cheese going everywhere. I'm gonna grab a spoon just so I can get some of this yummy sauce in there. Perfect. Then I'm going to top it with some Parmesan. You just need a couple of good tablespoons on top. Hey, but if you're a cheese lover, go crazy as much as you want. Keep in mind that Parmesan is a stronger flavor, so you don't want to add too much. That's it. I'm going to pop these in the oven for about 5 minutes until they're hot, bubbly, golden brown on top, and delicious. And I'll be right back. Well, that's it, everybody. It took about 5 or 6 minutes in the oven, and as you saw, it's hot, brown, and bubbly. It's a perfect side dish to any steakhouse meal. But we made it at home in just a few minutes with a handful of ingredients. Look at that. Who wouldn't love that next to a freshly grilled ribeye steak? Thanks for watching. Thanks for coming by. And I hope you check out some of my other videos. Don't forget to subscribe. I keep forgetting to ask you to subscribe. It's kind of important. And if you'd like to join us in our Facebook group, the link is down below as well. If you have any comments or questions, drop a note below and I'll get back to you, I promise. That's it. I hope you get to try this soon, and I know you're going to love it. Again, I'm Jen from KetoCookingWins.com. Enjoy your Steakhouse Creamed Spinach.